Hi Geometry, you should be looking at your 12.1 notes. We are starting circles and equations of circles today. So in front of you, when you're writing, if you need to pause the video, please feel free to go do that, or rewind or fast forward or whatever. And you can revisit this as much as you want. All right, so today for 12.1, we're going to talk about equations of circles. And an equation of circle actually has a center. And we know that because that's how you name a circle. The center of the circle is at the ordered pair h, comma k. And it also has a radius of our units. And the equation of a circle is right here. This is a general form for equation of a circle. It's the quantity x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals radius squared. Now if you look here, we have our h and our k, which really represents our center. So once we know the center, the ordered pair for the center, we could just plot those 2 points in here, but we're taking the opposite sign of them. So this really says not a minus, but it's the opposite of h and the opposite of k. And then all we have to do for our radius is square it. So let's take a look at a couple of these samples. Right here, they want us to find the center and the length of the radius of the circle. So here we're given an equation of a circle, and they want us to identify what the actual center is and the radius. So based on the equation, because it's x minus 7 quantity squared, we know that this is our h value, and our k doesn't seem to be anything because if I put a 0 here, I'm just going to get y squared. So that means our k value is really 0. So let's go ahead and identify that our center is going to be 7, 0, all right? And then our radius squared is 9 because that's part of the formula. So if our radius squared is 9, that means if we take the square root of that, our radius ends up really being 3. So these are the two characters that they want us to find, the center and the radius. And that's all we do. So let's look at this example. Here we have x plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 9 quantity squared equals radius squared. All right? So remember, to identify our center, we're taking the opposite value for h and k. So this is our h here, and this is our k here. So when we do that, we're going to take the opposite sign though. So our center, even though it says plus 2, is actually negative 2. Because the opposite of positive 2 is negative 2. And then comma, the opposite of negative 9 is positive 9. So our center is actually at negative 2, 9. So basically what I'm saying is whatever sign is in the equation for your center, it's just the opposite of that number, okay? And our radius then, since 121 represents radius squared, that's part of the equation, that means the radius is really the square root of 121, or 11 in this case. And that's all we need to do. All right, now we're going to work backwards. Here, we're given the center of the circle and the radius, and they want us to actually write an equation of a circle. So we're going to have and use this format. And using this information here, if our center, remember this represents our h, and 5 represents our k. So to do that, if our h is really 0, that means our h is 0. If I put nothing here and simplify that, I'm really going to get x squared. Now again, I could put that in and to show you what happens to it, and then plus y. Now since this is a positive 5, remember we take the opposite of that. So I'm going to put minus 5 quantity squared equals, and if our radius is 6, that means radius squared is 36. So we're going to write 36 here. Now, it looks like we're done, but we have to simplify. X minus 0 is just x. and then we have to square that. So we get x squared plus the quantity y minus 5 squared equals 36. All right, so we have to simplify it anytime we have a 0 there. So this is our answer. This is an equation of the circle with center 0, 5. Next, we're going to write an equation of a circle with center at 3, -7. So remember, this is our h, this is our k, and then diameter. They gave us the diameter. We don't care about the diameter. We want the radius. So that means if our diameter is 8, our radius is half of that, which is 4. But again, in the equation, they ask for radius squared. So I really want to take 4 and square it, which is just 16. So I am going to use this number and that center when I'm writing my equation of the circle. So my equation is going to be x minus 3 quantity squared. Remember, I'm taking the opposite of whatever that h value is, plus the quantity y. I'm going to put plus 7, because if I take the opposite of -7, that's a positive 7. Quantity squared equals radius squared, which is 16. And there is no more simplifying to do. We are done. So this is our answer with center at 3, -7, and a radius of 4. All right. All right, next. Circle with center at 3, -2, and a radius with endpoints 11, -2. So there's a lot of information going on. This doesn't really tell us the radius. It tells us where it's located on the graph, and it also tells us where our center is located on the graph. So at this point, we're going to draw our picture, and that is the best hint I could have to you. If you don't draw this, you're not going to know what's going on. So let's go ahead and draw this circle with a center of 3, -2. So here's 3, and there's -2. So I'm going to put a point there, and that's supposed to be the center. And then the radius has an endpoint of 11, -2. So if I were to keep extending this, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, -2. So basically what this is saying is this circle is going to rotate around its center, and it has an endpoint that looks something along these lines. So if I were to draw this, radius has a center here, and the endpoint has the endpoint there. I want to know how long that is. Well, I went straight across. So from 3, -2 all the way to 11, -2. I went across, you could count, well, from 3 to 11, that's 8 units. So my radius is 8, all right? So we have our center here. This is my h, k, and we just found out that our radius is 8 units long. All right, so all we're going to do now is take this ordered pair and take this radius and put it into our standard equation of a circle. Remember, we're going to take the opposite signs. Since this is +3, we're going to write x minus 3 quantity squared plus, circle equations, you add them in the center, plus y plus 2 quantity squared, again, take the opposite value, equals radius squared. Well, if r is 8, then radius squared is 8 squared, which is 64. So equals 64. And we're done with that. Okay, so in this case, you're going to have to draw it out to figure out where that endpoint is on the radius, to figure out how long it is. All right, let's move on. Next, center at -5, 4 with a radius of the square root of 15. All right, so we know this is h, k, and we're going to go ahead and write our standard form of an equation. X minus -5, again, is plus 5 quantity squared, plus y minus 4 quantity squared, equals our radius squared. Well, let's write this out. They're telling us that the radius is the square root of 15, and for this equation of a circle, we need radius squared. So we've done this plenty of times. We're basically saying, if you're going to square the r, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Well, what's the square root of 15 squared? Remember, they're inverse operations, so they cancel each other out, and you're just left with what was underneath the radical. So it's just 15. So our radius squared is just 15. So this is our answer to our equation. All right, moving on. Now what they're going to do is they want us to write an equation of the circle. Now you have a better idea of, on your paper, of where this is. It kind of looks sketchy here, but basically what this is saying here is that this is the line here, and let's see, it looks as if our grid of our circle is here and here. So this is at, let's see, center. It looks like our center is at -3, 0. And it looks like our radius is 5. You know what? I mixed that up. I believe it looks like this is the graph there. There we go. There we go. That makes more sense. So from here to here, our center is at -3, 0. And from here to here, which is our end point, it looks like our radius is 5 units long. I apologize because this is not the best grid to use. So our radius is 5 and our center is at -3, 0. All right, so again, if we're going to write an equation of a circle, we want radius squared. So 5 squared is 25. So we're going to use this number and this center. And all we're going to do is write an equation. So in simplified form, x plus 3 quantity squared plus y minus 0 quantity squared. But we already know what's going to happen. Y minus 0 is just y. So we're going to end up saying y squared. And if we're going to do that, we don't need those parentheses around there. Okay? All right. So y squared equals radius squared of 25. So that's our simplified equation of a circle. And that's it. All right. Here, wow, the graph's just looking more confusing as we go along. So here it looks like this is our line here, and it looks like this center is at 2, -3. And if you can't see that, trust me, it is. All right. On your homework, your grids are going to be a lot more clear. All right. And then the radius. Well, if I go straight up, this is 3 units long because I went 3 units down. So our radius is 3. So if our radius is 3, that means radius squared is 3 squared, which is 9. We're going to use that. Radius squared, we're going to use that center, and we're going to write an equation. So we have x minus 2 quantity squared plus y plus 3 quantity squared, always take the opposite sign, equals radius squared of 9. Okay? And that's it for problem number 8. So if we go to the other side here on the next page, see, this is how your graphs are going to look on your homework. They're very clear. All right, so now they want us to graph each circle. I'm going to tell you the best thing to do before you graph on the side is write what the center is and write what your radius is. Okay? So that's going to be the best thing. And then once you figure those out, you're going to plot your radius first. So let's figure this out. So if this is x squared, then I know that my center must be at 0, comma, and if this is positive 2 inside here, I know it's the opposite, which is -2. All right? And if this represents radius squared, if radius squared is 16, then my radius is the square root of that, which is just 4. So my radius is 4. So the first thing I'm going to do, once I already have these centers and radius, I'm going to go ahead and plot the center first. So 0, negative 2, 0, negative 2. Now, remember, a circle is, it's a whole set of points that is fixated around the center of the circle, and they're all equidistant from that center to the circle. So that means every point that's on the circle is going to be equal distance around that center. So that means if my center is here and I have a radius of 4 units, that means from here, I'm going to plot 4 units up, so 1, 2, 3, 4. From here, I'm going to plot 4 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. From here, I'm going to plot 4 units down, 1, 2, 3, 4. And from the center again, I'm going to plot 4 units to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that I have my 4 points equidistant around that center, all I'm going to do from this point is draw a circle. And those points have to be on the edges, on the circle itself. So I know it's going to end up looking not the best circle, but it's going to be the best that we can do. Hopefully maybe yours is a little better than mine. And that's it. We've identified the center, identified the radius, equidistant on all sides, and you just draw that circle. All right? Let's go ahead and do it here. So identify the center first. Our center is at the ordered pair, negative 1. Remember, take the opposite sign, comma, positive 3. And then if this represents radius squared, which is 4, I need my radius. So my radius is what I need to actually graph. So if radius squared is 4, that means our radius is actually 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and plot my center first. So my center is at negative 1, positive 3, which is right here. And then that means all other points on that circle are equidistant from the center. And how far away from the center? 2 points exactly. So again, I'm going to go ahead and plot 2 points around it up, 2 points to the right of it, 2 points to the left, and 2 points below it. And all I'm going to do is draw my circle as best as I can. And that's it. All right, so you will have 12.1 homework worksheet tonight for homework. And I'm sure there will be some IXL, so make sure you do that as well for that section. All right, have a good day.